Hello, it's day 4 of Unit 4, Empires and Colonies. Day 4 is titled Commercial Colonialism and the British East India Company. As you can see, we've added another empire to our little symbols here. So we had the Mughals, we had the Marathas, and now we have the East India Company. As you can see, this is day 4. We're moving forward in time. And the classes following this are going to be the First War for Independence, or as some people call it, the Sepoy Mutiny. So question number 1 for today is, why was India so valuable for the British East India Company? India was valuable to the British East India Company for its cash crops. Crops like jute could be used for rope making. Rope was extremely important for the British and their navy. Other crops like cotton, important similarly for making of cloth, making of uniforms and textiles, and the brand new British industrialization needed a lot of cotton. Sugarcane and rice were older style cash crops, things that had been grown in other colonies, and also last but not least, opium. The opium poppy is a flower. The poppy seeds from the opium poppy are a very powerful drug. We get the name opiate from the opium poppy. Opium itself was processed, as you can see in the picture on the right. The seeds are removed from the pods, they are ground up and processed, and they were exported by the British from India and sold to people in China in exchange for tea. India was valuable for its cash crops and for the fact that the British could require the people of India to grow these crops and to pay either the crops in tribute themselves or to sell the crops for cash in order to pay rent or taxes or other kinds of tribute to the British themselves. Plantations in India that grew these cash crops were not farmed with slaves like they were elsewhere in the empire, because in especially Hindu regions, low caste people could be forced to work without the bother of having to actually enslave anyone. In some ways, it's as if the entire country of India was enslaved by the British, sort of from a meta, larger perspective. The British were able to force the entire region to do its work. Second question is, what were some of the negative effects the British East India Company had on the people of India? And the biggest one, of course, is poverty. On the lower left, we see 2 of the pictures from the previous lesson about Bengal in the Golden Age under the Mughals. The luxurious life, the bungalow houses, the beautiful silk and cotton fabrics, the pillows, the rugs, the luxury is mostly all going to be gone, especially by the mid-1800s. The village on the upper right of this picture shows 2 British inspectors coming to a village. And this picture is here less to show you what happened and more to show you the feeling of what happened. The people of India, as you can see in this picture, they are skinny, they are bony, they are hungry. Famine, hunger, poverty are big problems under the British. Because the British are forcing villages to grow cash crops rather than the foods they need to eat, many people in India are going hungry. One question I would ask is, if you were this family in the center of the picture, how would you feel about the British inspectors who have come to your village? How would you feel about your quality of life, say, compared to the quality of life in the Golden Age 100 years earlier that we looked at last time? How did the British enforce this? How did the British make this happen? This picture at the bottom kind of gives us a hint to that. The British East India Company official in the middle, the larger sized guy, had an army of sepoys, Sepoys, or Indian soldiers who were paid to work for the British on their behalf and to kind of function as security to enforce the British authority. Behind the larger British guy, you can see a couple of local Indian officials that helped the British to maintain control over the people of India as well. The negative effects on the British people were economic. social, and also psychological. I don't know what that last picture was. That was a mistake. Number 3, how did the British East India Company own a colony? This is what confuses a lot of students. The British East India Company is a company. Today's focus is commercial colonialism. Commercial means commerce, business. The point of a business, the point of commerce, the point of commercial enterprises is to sell things, buy things, and make money. So how did a company own a colony? The East India Company itself was just that, a company, a business, and it was in the business of making money. So how did they come to own a colony? In the name of making money, the British East India Company officials made deals with local leaders. As you can see on the upper right, local leaders like nawabs and governors, like we talked about before, local leaders like Maharaja, which is just a name for a king or a prince. The British East India Company came to these people, these leaders, and made them an offer that, so to speak, they couldn't refuse. The British said, do business with us, we'll give you a piece of the profit, or we fight you with our private army, defeat you, and we take the money anyway. So local leaders mostly took the deal to collaborate with the British East India Company in the name of keeping their own power and keeping some shred of their own dignity. On the bottom left, you have a picture of some of these British East India Company officials and their sepoy soldiers. The sepoy soldiers, again, were mostly Indians who had been paid and recruited to be part of the British East India Company's private army. The private sepoy army is not exactly like a national army because it's an army owned by a business. You want to think of the sepoy army not as like the British military or the US military, but instead like some combination of mercenary soldiers for hire, security guards to protect a business, and bodyguards to protect the British individuals themselves. These bodyguard mercenaries were loyal to the British East India Company officials, partially for the money that they could earn doing it, partially for the status and the uniform and the power of being a soldier. And after a while, the sepoys become the only way that the British East India Company is able to maintain its control. That's all there is for today. There's only 3 summaries. Submit your summaries online, and I will see you tomorrow.